Hi guys, welcome to our podcast. My name is Johnny and this is Pete. We are the Mikulka Group, Mikulka Electric and its affiliations. We're here at 275 Route 79 in Morganville. Our phone number is 855-Mikulka. Today we're going to talk about the worst ways.
Dude, that introduction almost sounded like a bunch of questions.
I know, it sounded like you didn't know where we were.
I know. It sounded like you didn't know who we were, where we were, or what we did.
I don't like doing the intro, but I need to practice it.
Right, he does. He needs to practice, so everybody just bear with Johnny. So today, man, we're going to talk about secrets of the trade.
Secrets of the trade.
Last post, we talked about some ways to save money on construction costs. Today, I want to talk about ways that you should not try and save money on construction costs. So one of the things, though, I do want to show you guys. So being that we are
props today.
We're mechanical guys, right? So by nature. So we do building, we build houses, we do additions, right? We have a construction company, we have an electrical contracting company, but I was brought up as a mechanical guy. Dad was an electrical contractor. My grandfather before him was an electrician. So
really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, funny story.
3 generations?
Yeah, 3 generations. Funny story about my grandfather. So I was with my grandmother before she passed away, and she was telling me about my grandfather because I didn't really know him, right? And so she goes, yeah, he was an electrician back in the early days when when people's houses were first starting to get wired, and I was always so worried about him, and I was like, oh, Grandma. You were worried that he would get hurt because of the electricity. Yeah. And she was like, no, I was worried about the people because he was so drunk all the time.
Ah. Right.
And apparently he was quite the player, from what I'm told. Yeah. Okay, so look, guys. So here, I want to show you this. So this looks bad, right? So this is a Federal Pacific circuit breaker. Oh. And this is an old surge protector. Now, what I want you to see about these things is these did not trip. The power was flowing through these devices and nothing tripped. This was on. It's still on now. Oh, it didn't shut off. Oh my. The whole point of electrical safety is that in that condition, something is supposed to shut off. Now, these are Federal Pacifics. Federal Pacific was recalled in the 80s. Most people know that. So if you have breakers that look like this, give us a call.
Give us a call.
Because this is the problem. Okay. So look, here's the thing. Just real quick, I want to talk about electricity just a little bit before I get started on the worst ways to try and save money. We get a lot of calls where people go, I need a new circuit breaker.
Right.
I need a new circuit breaker because mine keeps tripping.
Yes, it does.
There are 2 conditions that we deal with most in the electrical world, and that is problematic tripping of circuit breakers, power not getting to where it needs to go. That is not the most important situation. The most important situation that we deal with is power flowing to places that it should not be flowing to. That is the most dangerous electrical condition that can exist. So imagine that this only happened to get found because we happened to be doing something else.
Scary.
So we opened up the panel. We happened to find this because something else hadn't worked. So
it happened to my dad.
What happened to your dad?
Well, he went in for a back X-ray, and they found something with his heart. It was just
on a different
Oh,
metaphorically.
Well, no, for real though.
Okay.
But it's kind of relates.
Is Bob all right?
He's fine. Yeah, this was years ago.
All right.
He got a stint, and you know what I mean. But he went in for something. It was completely something.
And it was something else. It was coincidental.
Yes.
Coinky dink. Like they used to say. Okay. So anyway, guys. So look, if a circuit breaker is tripping, it means it's doing its job. So if a circuit breaker trips, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world that you don't have power to that circuit until we can get over there. If you have a Federal Pacific circuit breaker panel, and also if you have a tripping circuit breaker, it could be an indication of a larger problem. So give us a call. Yeah. Anyway, so now let's talk about the secrets of the trade and some of the worst ways that you can try and save money during construction. One of the worst ways to try and save money during construction is this.
I think I know what you're going to say.
How about, as the homeowner, I buy all the material and you just charge me for the labor? This is a bad idea, guys. It's a bad idea.
Tell me why.
Single source of responsibility.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So we love generators at Mikulka. So let me bring up generators one more time. So let's, and we do this job and it happens on occasion, but let's say we get a guy and he says, listen, Pete, I bought the generator. Right. I bought all the stuff. I just want you to come and hook it up.
A couple hundred, right?
So Here's the problem, guys. What happens when the generator doesn't start?
Oh.
What happens if the generator malfunctions? What happens if the generator's out of warranty?
Hey now.
So we're not the type of company that washes our hands of it. However, a lot of companies are.
Mm-hmm.
So what can happen is this. You supply somebody with something, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
I didn't supply it.
Problem, right?
I didn't supply it. So the bigger the project, the more important it is. Single source of responsibility. You want one guy to answer for the work.
Right.
If it's an HVAC project, you want one guy to answer for that. If that thing starts, acting funny, 6-7 months from now, you don't want to be that, oh, well, you supplied this and I did the labor. No confusion. Single source of responsibility
is really important. And that comes up a lot with me when I get calls for the spas or pools.
Yes.
And always my question to them is, does the spa people or the pool people have an electrician that they work with? Yes, they do. And they think I'm like, poo-poo in their business, but it's not the case. I'm steering them.
Single source of responsibility. And especially when you have electric
and water
and children all in the same place interacting, single source of responsibility and safety is the key. Also, using and finding your own subcontractors during a project, not a great idea. And again, as a GC, as a builder, I know this because if I have a plumber that I've worked with for years, that plumber knows how to work with me.
Right.
If you tell me, well, you're going to work with my brother's friend's sister's brother, Al the plumber,
right.
Well, you're paying Al directly. I need Al to finish a job for me. I need to get Al on site. Al's got to finish the job so I can move ahead and put the sheetrock on the walls. But guess what? Al doesn't really care.
Al doesn't care.
Al's not motivated by me.
Mm-mm.
So again, single source of responsibility. That's what it comes down to. When you hire a builder, when you hire a general contractor, it is a really good idea. The more that you can put in his hands, the better, because then he can control the project and then he can answer for good news and bad news. Right. And that's what you want. The last thing that's a really bad idea is doing some of the work yourself, even though you've never done it before. Oh. Because it seems easy. Now this is something. I can
think of a property that comes to mind.
This is something that we really like to steer people clear of, because look, every trade, even if it's a simpler trade, like painting is not as simple as it seems. You know what I mean? Woodworking, definitely not as simple as it seems. When you get into mechanical trades, there is so much that you have to know. Mm-hmm. And even though it looks simple, if the guy is good at his trade, he makes it look easy. Right. And so a lot of people sometimes they'll watch an installation happen and think, oh. And a lot of times I tell people, with electric and mechanical and plumbing and stuff, it's not only what we do, it's what we know not to do that is just as important. So
I like that line.
When it comes to trying to save money, those are definitely some of the ways that you should not. You should try and stay away from those if it's at all possible. I hope that was helpful, and I hope you guys stay safe and call us for anything you need here at 855 Mikulka, and come and see Johnny at 275 Route 79 North in Morganville, New Jersey. And today we're going to talk about something interesting in Johnny's Music and Movie Corner.
Right? I had a thought, and I feel like the 80s get a bad rap. I think 80s music gets a bad rap. I think people just, they immediately go for that, poppy 80s stuff. But there was more going on. You know what I mean? You had a second wave of the English, the British invasion. Bands that come to mind are like the Psychedelic Four-Furs, how Joy Division went.
The Psychedelic Four-Furs?
Yeah, Four-Furs. Or Four-Furs.
That's who they were before they were the Psychedelic Furs.
That's right. Okay. Joy Division going into New Order. There was some cool stuff that was happening.
I don't think any of that stuff was all that cool. So, listen, the 80s.
But I know what you want to talk about.
Yeah, and most of the 80s, like there's some. The 80s get a bad rap for a reason.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of like horrible stuff that happened musically. What I like that happened musically.
But Joan Jett was cool.
Yeah, Joan Jett was super cool, man.
Yeah.
Joan Jett still is super cool.
It's super cool.
But what I would like to talk about as far as the 80s go is the foundations for the industrial music, because I love industrial music. Give me some Ministry and some Revolting Cocks and those boys. Like give me some of that. Right, and KFM. Something that Johnny didn't realize, who is the music and movies expert, that I did, and I corrected him about this. So Trent Reznor,
Yes.
Pretty Hate Machine,
Yeah.
9 Inch Nails,
89.
1989.
89.
So you had Trent Reznor
Yeah.
doing Pretty Hate Machine in 1989. You had Depeche Mode
Oh.
doing some very cool stuff.
Very
right?
good stuff.
So I think that if you took heavy metal
Right. Oh, this is good. This is good. Yeah.
and 80s pop music,
Mhm.
but pop like Joy Division,
Right.
like Depeche Mode, like U2 is big in the
Oh, they
the
were.
80s.
Yeah, they
Like,
sure were.
you take
yeah.
heavy metal and you mix it with that with a whole lot of hallucinogenic drugs
And
and
electricity
cocaine.
and a lot of electricity.
Yeah, a lot of electricity and cocaine. You mix it all together, then it gives you the industrial
Mhm.
music.
Mhm.
And industrial music, in my mind, was really the foreground for a lot of the grunge stuff that happened.
Really?
Yes,
That's where you see it.
That's where I see it,
I
man.
don't see that.
Yeah.
I don't see that. Because they were going at the same time. Like the Black Box and what was happening in Chicago, with Ministry and My Life with the Thrill
Dude.
Kill Cult. And
that music was insane.
oh, insane. You're
Insane
right, but I
music.
don't see how it's... Well, the Melvins, I think, are a good example of that, the blend of grunge and industrial. You know what I mean? Because they had that the screaming and the harder drums. But you see it as going into it.
Yeah. I saw grunge and industrial very tied together. Yeah.
Well,
That's it.
I think by the time period, because they were going on simultaneously. You have this going on in Seattle, and then you have this going on
Well,
in
you know,
Chicago.
in all fairness, I might have been a little out of it.
Definitely. I can attest to that.
I might have been a little out of it at that period. You know how you think of like a certain restaurant,
Right.
and the restaurant wasn't that good, but it was the time that you had at the restaurant.
Mm.
So you imagine the
Right.
restaurant, in your memory,
Right.
the restaurant was really good.
And you can't trust memories.
And but the food was really bad, but it was just
Right.
that you had a really good time there.
Right.
That's kind of like what the 90s are for me.
The entire decade. The entire decade.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the truth.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it wasn't
me
that
too.
it wasn't that awesome, but in my memory, it was
I don't know. I'll go back.
it was
to
one of
the
my
line
favorites.
that we used. Yeah, the 90s,
We're
maybe the
gonna make-
60s look like the 50s. Right? Yeah.
Dennis
I don't know.
Hopper.
I really think that's the truth. I thought it was off the hook.
Well,
Anyway,
and-
Ministry is a great example of that. If you listen to their first album, Halloween, it's really poppy and so forth and so on. And then Al Jurgensen goes into some, two drummers and it's
Yeah,
off
he
the
went
hook.
crazy.
He
All
went
right,
crazy.
so
Mhm.
the 80s. So please, you got to help us out with the 80s. Give us a call.
It's a
Stop
bad
by.
rap.
Yeah, give us a reason to like the 80s again, please, because the 90s were such a blur for me that I don't even really remember what happened in the 80s.
Right?
So give us a call. Remind us about the 80s and why that decade in music was actually
it has some
really,
value.
really important.
It has some value.
And Johnny is going to be much more willing to talk to you about it than I am.
Mhm.
Because to me,
Yeah,
the
for
80s
sure.
were.
Yeah, everybody.
thumbs down.
I think it's an easy go-to. Poo-poo the 80s.
All right. Well, anyway, stop by 275 Route 79
Right.
North in Morganville. Let's
Right.
talk about the 80s. Let's talk about electrical work. Let's talk
Mhm.
about building. Let's
Mhm.
talk about
The
generators.
clothes were bad. Ugh.
Oh, the clothes are horrible,
the
man.
hair.
All right, guys.
They had a couple of hits.
Stop by and tell Johnny about the 80s, okay?
Please.
Route 7,
855 Mikulka.
855 Mikulka. Thanks, guys. Stay safe.
right.
See you soon.